I'm giving you the materials list for next week because at the beginning we're going to do some rendering. Even though your assignment for that week is to detail your drawing, we're going to do rendering exercises so that by the time you do render it in week 12, you'll have had some practice with kitchen materials and finishes. These are the extra little things that I need you to have. So everyone has a mat knife or a scalpel of some kind, hopefully. And don't forget your white gouache and your black gouache and your paintbrush, probably a fine paintbrush, a container for water, and a mixing well. So I think you have a little palette or something you can mix in. And your Prismacolor white pencil and your black colored pencil, all your colored pencils really, and some tracing paper and your cartridge paper, a pencil crayon, so marker paper, the usual set of things. Your gray markers are very important. We'll be rendering with them. The rest of the usual things that we need. So the exceptions are this knife and the gouache that you're going to need to have. Now this week, if you look at your sheets, we have instructions for this next part, part 2, and you're going to do your shadow mapping. And you'll follow the video along and do your shadow mapping, but I'm hoping by now that it's pretty instinctual. You know how to go about it. That you start with our light source. Remember, we're going to light the room using the big light fixture that we've put in as part of our renovation. So all of our shadows are going to be going back in space. And this will give us some interesting shadows on the banquette, and an interesting shadow for a round table, and there'll be shadow on either side, just like the bed. This is a little bit like our bed in the master bedroom. We had shadow here, and some of the things that are on top of the counter will have shadow as well. Don't forget the wine refrigerator and the refrigerator itself are going to have shadows. Now this is as tall, since we've made it, the wine refrigerator is as tall as the refrigerator since we added the cabinetry at the top. So we may not have a shadow on top here. That was previous to that decision. Okay. So start by blocking all your shadows in on your floor plan first, and then move to your box form drawing and map the same shadows out here. You can even use the same coordinates. So you can see my shadow here for my banquette is in the same spot on here as it is here. It ends in the same spot. So that's handy to have. It's nice to be able to have an idea of how big you want these shadows to get or to not get on the floor plan, and then when you put them on the perspective, they'll work nicely. Thing you have to do, next thing on the list, is your title block. So choose a descriptive phrase for your kitchen, and that's why I'm asking you to think about your spot color. I put a little video up of Kay Ruane's work for you to see, and she is a fine artist, but she's drawing interiors in black and white, and then she uses spot color. So I'd like you to have a look at how she uses it and see how you might want to use it when we get to that stage of your rendering. While you're doing your detailed penciled line drawing, you can start to think about where you might like to put color. And you might have to add something that's not in your references in order to get the idea across of what you're trying to say. But that, whatever you put in color, is going to relate to this descriptive phrase you're going to come up with for your kitchen. So if it's a hot and spicy kitchen, then maybe you have a clock shaped like a hot pepper or something, and it relates there. I'm being facetious, but you see the idea that the spot color and where you put it should go along with the idea that you have as your descriptive phrase. And then the little floor plan. Now the little floor plan is just, at this stage, just a copy of this large one. So you have to reduce it and get it on here. And don't forget, all the while, this has to fit on your 14 by 17 inch sheet of marker paper. And remember, when you do your detailed line drawing in pencil only for this next week, do it on the side of the paper that you could render on. Remember, the papers always have two different sides, so you have to make sure think ahead and check and make sure. Okay, so those are the first two items. You're blocking in your shadow shapes on the floor plan, transferring them to your block drawing, putting in your descriptive phrase. Just cut out the pieces and place them nicely at the bottom here and put your floor plan in. This should read as a whole piece. If it means that when you put your marker paper over to make your pencil detailed line drawing, then that's fine. Cut off some of the ceiling. That would be just fine. In fact, a drawing looks a little more beautiful if it is cropped. Sometimes too much open space is not as attractive. You don't appreciate the angles quite so much. And the angles in perspective are what enliven it. You see, these are all flat without any angles, the floor plans and elevations, but what makes a perspective exciting are the diagonals. Don't forget you're making a composition. So move the paper east and west, north and south until you're pleased with what you see. And have your floor plan and your title block all one section down at the bottom. Use a dark enough pencil that I'll be able to see it next week. And remember to add the cabinetry above the wine refrigerator. And to put this all together, these two things, shadow mapping and title block, they belong on your box form drawing. So they're all going to go back on this, so you have to bring this back next week. And the pencil detailed line drawing, it's going to just be sitting over top as an overlay. And you're going to do that on your marker paper on the side that you can render on, and it just goes right over top. So we'll be able to flip back and forth with two pieces of masking tape. Eventually we're going to take it off, render it, and remount it, but for the time being, it'll just be there. Parts of this assignment are due week 12 and week 13. I won't be able to take either of those things that are due on those two dates late. They have to be on time. Okay, just keep that in mind. I can't mark your final assignment, your final rendering, if I haven't also seen the first part and the second part. So if you come on week 13 just with the finished rendering, I won't be able to mark it. So just things to keep in mind that are on our submissions policy.